We never thought that this would be what it is. Our ultimate dream, our ultimate vision.
I just want to quit my day job.
Yeah, I just wanted to get paid for work that I did because pen making never paid me anything.
Even the start of this business, we didn't pay ourselves for quite a while.
Yeah, we never set out to have a staff. We never set out to have a warehouse. We were thinking this would just be a little business that we'd run in our house.
Right.
So this whole thing is just really kind of surreal.
So we were in our first apartment.
Yeah, we did newly married, newly graduated college.
I had a job.
You did?
You kind of had some work.
Kinda. I had a degree, which I chose not to go into.
You were working. I was pulling the wagon.
You were pulling it pretty hard. But, you know, I was itching to work with my hands. I always loved woodworking, always loved doing that kind of stuff. And we didn't have cable at the time, so we had like 4 channels.
And PBS.
They were very fuzzy. So, yeah, we had PBS, and I remember it was at 9 o'clock on Saturday mornings. We would get the New Yankee Workshop.
With reruns at 1 p.m.
Yes, that's right. They would rerun the previous weeks at 9 o'clock.
In case we missed it, forgot to
And then
record
the
on
new
a
one was at 1
VCR.
o'clock. Yeah, we used a VCR, which was funny.
We couldn't
This was 2006. VCR wasn't new.
And we didn't have a programmable one, so we had to like hit the record button.
We did, that's right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I was really into New Yankee Workshop. That was like the highlight of my week, was to get to watch that. Norm Abrams working with the antique furniture and stuff, you know, showing all these awesome tools. And I was just dying to do some stuff with my hands. And so, you know, we lived in an apartment with a covered balcony at the time, which was a terrible place to do woodworking.
But we had a balcony.
We did have a balcony.
At least it was
It was
covered.
an outdoor balcony, but, you know, there was no power to it, so I ran extension cords out the windows.
Yep.
And it had a little...
like a little closet
a
thing.
little kind of outdoor storage thing, which I hung
Hung
pegboard
pegboard.
and, you know, had all my equipment and stuff there.
You were so proud of it. It's kind of sad looking back.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It was a pretty decent little shop, honestly. But anyway.
For a balcony.
But it was pretty ridiculous. And,
At least you admit it.
It was. So I needed something that I could work with that was quiet enough and inexpensive enough to be able to do kind of part-time as
I remember
a
we
hobby.
hung up tarp, too, so that, like, the neighbors couldn't see what you were up to.
That's right. We, you know, I really just, the pen making thing for me was we never came up with a business plan. We never planned out.
It was a hobby.
Yeah, it really was a hobby. That's all it ever was.
It's like, look what I made, and now we can use it.
So the pen making thing was kind of like, all right, well, this is a small enough project where I can do this and have something to show for it at the end, besides a bunch of sawdust in my shoes. And so that's really all it ever was in the beginning. Yeah. And I don't know how I justified that to you. Because I remember the equipment that started, I was like $600 or something, which was a lot of money for us at that time.
Yeah, but it was your passion. You wanted to do it so bad. I was sick of watching those episodes of you.
You know, I had such an undying passion for it. You wanted to see me follow my passion.
Absolutely.
Obviously. That's kind of a recurring theme throughout, ever since you've known me, is I've been very passionate about many things, and you have always helped me with that in a constructive way. I made the first pen, and it was just like, I made this. Like, this wasn't a pen, and now it is because of what I did. And that was so cool.
It wasn't very good. The finish was terrible.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't even a great
thing.
Fit
but,
was you know,
terrible.
It was, I made it.
It worked.
And that was cool. It did. I still have it, you know, but it's, you know, it's, gosh, it's so exhilarating just to create something like that. And so that was kind of what sparked my initial passion for making stuff. I think what happened was a couple of weeks later we
were visiting my parents.
Yeah.
And you brought, you know, what you'd made.
Yeah, I was just showing because I was just like, oh, yeah.
Or maybe we told my dad about it or something. He's like, oh, by the way, we give pens every year for Christmas to our corporate clients.
Yeah.
It's like, you should talk to so-and-so about that to see, you know, just show what you have because they really like pens. We're like, okay, sure.
All right. Well, and I was like, yeah, I'll show people my pens. These pens are awesome. I made these. You know, but it's silly. So
next time we were up there, you know, we got a meeting with the person we needed to, and just, you know, it was a friend of the family, so, you know, it wasn't like...
Humored me.
It wasn't intimidating. It was just like, oh, yeah, my dad's friend who works with him or whatever. So we showed him, and he's like, yeah, I really like these. Can you make 100?
And I was like, Yeah, I could make 100.
It was like
Why not?
September, and then they needed it for Christmas, and you'd made like a dozen at that point.
If that, maybe 10, something.
I think he saw what the potential was, and not
Yeah.
necessarily where your skill was at the time. He figured by the time you made 100, your skill would,
Yeah.
improve.
Yeah. So he was kind of our champion at the time.
So we went home. We're like, I guess we need to be a business now or something.
Yeah, we were like, oh, we're actually going to be taking in some real money here. We need to figure this out. And so from then on, it was kind of like, okay, I'm doing this a lot now. Let me figure out how to make pens real quick.
Well,
Like-
and I was itching to build a website because
That's right,
my dad
that's
taught me
right.
how to do HTML since I was like 14. And
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, an e-commerce store. Like, I want to build that.
Yeah.
So I did,
yeah,
and I created, gosh, when we were first starting out, we had like build your own pen. So you could choose from like 100 materials and like all these different combinations. How many combinations were there? It was
I
like
think we counted it.
273,000.
It was something insane because it was like, oh, we have all these different acrylics and all these different woods we could use,
we
with
had
all
all
these
these-
different kits and finishes and all these things. This wasn't even fountain pens talking about nib sizes and stuff. This was just ballpoints, and I
Oh, and then
forget,
you
it
can
was
add
something-
engraving and
It was insane. Like and we thought that was a selling point. Like, oh, there's so many options. Not realizing at all that people don't need 270,000
they just
different
get
options.
overwhelmed and walk away.
Exactly. So.
But I had fun. I learned a lot.
Yeah, I was having fun too. I was, making pens and having a
So
blast.
that was the problem. We were having a lot of fun, and we got addicted to it ourselves. We
Yeah.
kept buying more materials. Ooh, this is red. This is blue. It's shiny. This is glitter. Whatever.
Yeah.
I even tried turning pens for a while.
You did. You turned a half
I
dozen or
was
so.
trying really, really hard to just share your passion.
I know you were. You
I
were
sold
trying hard.
some.
You did.
Someone in Australia still has one of my pens.
That's right. That's right.
Maybe. I mean, maybe they threw it away. I don't know. But I sold one to Australia.
It could be worth more now. Now you have hung on to that.
Maybe.
Anyway,
We did a couple craft shows.
we did. We were not as good at selling the pens as we were at making them,
Yeah.
which was kind of our ultimate downfall.
So we're
So-
like, something's got to change.
Yeah.
So we started like exploring other avenues. We started, I guess the DC Soup Show is what changed it all.
Yeah, in 2009, I attended that show for two reasons. One, I wanted to explore the show to see if setting up a booth there in 2010 for my pen making, to see if that would be lucrative. That was kind of like, hey, maybe that would work.
Maybe
that
we
would
could
be-
get some interest and then this thing would take off.
And then the second reason I went is I heard that the DC show was a big fountain pen
Mm-hmm.
show. And, with pen kits, with pen making, you can exchange out a roller ball for a fountain pen with some of the kits. And I
Right.
knew that was always an option.
We just didn't know anything about
And I was
it.
like, I don't really know anything about fountain pens. Let me just explore this and see, I'll go to the DC show. I'll pick up a bottle of ink. Literally, I was so naive. Just
Because
like,
we didn't even know how to
I
fill a
didn't even
fountain pen.
know.
We had this kit, and we're like,
I didn't know
do
how
you
they
write with
worked.
it?
I didn't know. I knew there was something with capillary action.
There's like a tube on the inside
There were like
that does
parts
something.
in this metal, and I was like,
An ink
I don't know what's
pump.
going on here. So I was like, I'll go to the show and get some ink and figure it out. And
You had a
boy,
very limited
did I-
budget.
That's right. And then I went to the show, and it was just like, what is this? So I went to this thing, and there wasn't really any one particular thing that happened at the show that was like, oh yeah, this is definitely what I should do. But I really just had kind of an overall
Epiphany?
Yeah, it was this feeling, this calling that I had at the show that was just like fountain pens. I need to get into fountain pens. I don't know why, I don't know how, and I don't know what capacity, but I need
There's
to figure out what's up with the
something
fountain
happening
pens.
here. There's a lot of people who are very enthusiastic and passionate for this. Like, why?
Yeah, and it wasn't even, no one came up and talked to me, no one said anything, it wasn't even anything like that. It really was just this
Kind of gut feeling.
gut feeling, yeah. And so I went home that night and signed up for an account on the Fountain Pen Network and started just diving in and learning everything I could about fountain pens.
We had a Twitter handle. We were starting to talk to people on Twitter wherever we could.
That's right. And it was really just the access that we had through the internet, through social media, that we connected to other people in the fountain pen community. And that was kind of like the big aha. It was like, oh, this is what we were missing with the pen making thing. We
People
had a
who
great
were
product.
Passionate for the products.
Right, but there was no one talking about wooden pens.
Right. People would buy
There
it
was no
once for a gift,
community.
and that was it.
There's a great community of pen makers,
Mm-hmm.
which I was a part of, but no wood pen buyers. There was
Yeah.
no one out there collecting them or anything
It's
like
a gift
that.
crowd.
Yeah, so with fountain pens, though, we were like, oh, there's a community of people that are into this stuff, and there's this richness of the history.
There's inks and all these colors.
Yeah, and I became infatuated with the ink. It was just like, oh, there's all these different colors, and I always loved trying all these different colors and stuff. So we were like, okay, this is really kind of cool. So what we were originally thinking was, oh, I can make wood fountain pens, my beautiful pens, and just throw a fountain pen thing on there, whatever, and then we can carry ink and paper.
Fountain pen thing? You mean a nib?
Yeah, in the beginning it was kind of like, whatever, I can just make it into a fountain pen.
Right.
And then we can sell paper and ink of like brand name stuff, get people to our site.
That's what happened on Fountain Pen Network. We started talking, well, what is it that people like? What is it they're having a hard time finding?
Yeah.
Let's sell those accessories on our site we already have with our, 300,000 combinations of pens you could make.
We had pared it down a little bit at that point.
Okay, like 30,000. I don't know. It was still a lot. But, sell these accessories, get people to our site, then maybe they'll fall in love with our pens, and then it'll finally, become something.
Yeah, exactly. That was the initial plan. I was still hanging on to the wood pen making thing. I was thinking I was going to be this master craftsman, and we'd retail the paper and ink stuff to kind of get the pump primed.
Right.
And then once I became known as the craftsman of these wooden pens, then
the master
that would be
plan.
our big break. And
So we hooked up with
yeah.
Execlair through Twitter, right?
Yep.
And they have the Rhodia, the Clairefontaine, Jeroboam, that line. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what people were saying they're having a hard time finding online.
Some of that stuff. I mean, it was available in some places, but some was available in all these random
It was
stores.
2009 e-commerce, it was a thing,
Well, it was
but
chugging
not
along,
the way
but-
it is now.
Yeah, but Rachel's very tech savvy, and I had a good sense too. So we were like, wow, okay, we can actually carry this stuff, and we had a really good sense. We were really in touch with people who were on these forums and all that, and it just came very natural to us. How would we want a retailer to carry these things if we were into it? Oh, well, we'll just do that. We'll do what makes sense, we feel, and then we should be able to successfully carry these products.
Yeah, so we asked people, what specific things do you want? What would you like to buy? So we didn't carry the full line right away. We just got a couple products. And I remember it was November 17th, 2009.
That's right.
I remember for so many reasons. It's my half birthday. Yay. It's the anniversary of the weekend we met, our honors choir concert in high school when we met. And also earlier that day, we did a craft show at the company, a Fortune 500 company I worked for at the time.
That's right.
And I thought that would be really successful. It's kind of like our last-ditch effort to, sell our
do the
products
craft
in person.
show thing, yeah.
And it didn't.
We did okay, but it was just like this
thing isn't working. These are people who know me and have, So we came home, and our first purchase order was sitting there at the doorstep.
That's right.
And my sister was visiting too.
I remember
And
that.
we came inside and unpacked it all and put it on the website that night. It was like 10 o'clock at night. But I was like, we're so excited. We put it up.
Yep.
And then we got orders. We posted on the Fountain Pen Network, hey, we have this stuff. And then we got orders.
We were like, oh, this is what it is to be a retailer. To actually carry things that people want and then to sell them. This is cool.
Yeah, and to not have to make them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was nice too. Because I was used to making things and not selling them.
So now we're like, okay, now we have to figure out how to ship them and stuff.
Yeah, pretty much, because we hadn't worked out much of those details in the beginning there. So, but, I think what happened is we started selling stuff, and as we were selling things, we were really in touch with our customers, and we saw that the whole personal feel was the way to go about it, and it felt right.
We started the blog.
That's right. Yeah, we started the blog. I read Gary Vaynerchuk's book, Crush It, and that book changed my life. It changed the way that we thought about doing business. It caused me to think, I need to blog. I need to get videos done.
No one was doing videos at the time for fountain pen products.
Yeah, I'd seen a couple of videos
But nothing with
that had
regularity.
been done a couple of years before, but no one was actually doing it like Gary did with Wine Library. So for me, it was I saw this huge opportunity to be the Gary V of the fountain pen world. And that was kind of my initial goal, was to be that. And
we would get a lot of questions about the products, and a video was a great way to just share the information to, reach a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. And so much in the fashion that we've done ever since the beginning, we figured it out as we went.
We had everything set up in our dining room.
That's right.
We had a couple bookcases. We were in a house at the time. Forgot the part where we moved from our apartment to a house. We had our first house,
Right.
and we set up 3 bookcases in the room.
Yeah.
Packed orders on the
I think
dining
you can
table.
see that in some of my first videos.
early
You can see the whole
videos.
workshop and everything. It's crazy to see that now, but
Yeah,
so,
3 bookcases of products, packed orders on the dining table.
yeah.
And then it got to the point we started expanding the products. We're like, oh, we're running out of space. It was a very, very tiny dining room.
Yeah.
So then we moved to our guest room. So we lined
did.
the whole room with
We had
bookcases.
8 bookcases in there. I remember that. 8 bookcases.
You literally had a foot and a half to walk around the bed, and it was
Yep.
all products all around you. And then we packed orders on the bed.
On the bed. Yep.
Not great for your back.
No, it was terrible, actually. I really did not like packing orders on that bed.
But we did what we had to do. That's all the space we had.
Yeah, and that was 6 months in that we were doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And gosh, yeah, we did. We were in that room for a couple of months, I think, and then
And then we started expanding. We got a couple new brands of ink and expanded the paper some more. And then we started outgrowing that space.
and at this time we were not carrying any pens still.
You were still making pens.
I still kind of was, but I was kind of coming to a realization like, okay,
This still isn't
We're-
that's what happened is people are coming to the site. It was the paper and the ink was taking off, but no one was buying the pens.
yeah.
So we started making more. We're like, oh, we'll just, give more to choose from, these ready-made things that people can just buy and include in their order. And no one
Wasn't
wanted
happening.
them.
Yeah, it wasn't happening. So, and then really what happened was as I got more into pens, I kind of realized some fatal flaws that I had with the wood pens. Wood is not an ideal material. The kits that we were using had a lot of metal in them. They were
They were
incredibly
very heavy, and the grip
costs-
section gets slippery too after
Yeah, the
extended use.
raw material we cost for the wood and the kits themselves were very high. So we had to charge a lot to be able to make anything on the pens. There came a point where I personally had to kind of come to the realization that the pen making thing wasn't going to be sustainable for long, especially because we had, a 500 square foot garage that was dedicated to
The workshop.
the workshop, the pen making, and we had a 100 square foot guest room with 8 bookcases that we were packing all of the orders of the things that we're actually selling on our site. And it just, I kind of did the math and said, yeah, this probably isn't sustainable. Rachel helped me to realize that. I was probably blind to it a little longer than I should have been, but eventually we realized the pen making thing is kind of not going to happen anymore. So I was still a little bit in denial. So we didn't take over the whole garage. We took over half of it.
Yeah.
So I remember
You had to build a wall and a door.
I had to build a wall, and we crammed the entire workshop into half the garage. I'm pretty sure I blogged about that as well. It looks ridiculous. So we crammed all the tools into one side, and then I built a wall, and we had this nice little half garage, which was at least double the space we had before.
And you had tables.
We built some tables, yeah, and so we had
Lined it
a
with
nice
bookcases.
space. Yeah, we had a much nicer space than that was in our garage. We had to go outside and walk 10 feet
I know.
to get to work.
Detached garage.
So yeah, that was definitely a step up at that time, and that's when it started to feel a little more legitimate because
Yeah.
it wasn't in a bedroom; it was in a separate space, I guess.
I remember working late at night and having the baby monitor because our 6-month-old would be sleeping. He slept through the night from an early age, thank goodness.
Yeah,
We'd be out there doing ink samples at 2 in the morning on a Friday because that's
what we had to do.
That's what we had to do to make it work, and having the
Yep.
baby monitor and going back inside the house. And when it was cold outside, it was rough.
Yeah, the garage did not get very warm either.
No.
So that's what we had to do, back in those earlier days.
I remember we got Noodlers around that time, and we did the DC show of 2010.
That's right, and then so that
we
was
were
kind
vendors
of
at that show this year.
Yeah, so that we kind of had a dream, I guess, of actually working that show, especially because we had the epiphany.
Well, it
the
seemed
year
like a
before.
no-brainer. It seemed like that's what you do. If you're a vendor, you do the DC show.
Well, and for us too, it was like, oh yeah, this fountain pen show. There's not a lot of paper and ink there. That's all we did at that time.
Yeah.
So it was very natural. Like we're gonna bring an entire U-Haul full of paper and ink, and then we will just rock the place. And
And we
that's
did.
kind of what we did. But
We had
man,
3 tables.
Yeah, the thing is though, paper and ink is really freaking heavy. It was, I think,
Fill the U-Haul.
you get like
And
those.
we left stock behind. We didn't even bring everything we had
Right.
because our website was still functional during this time.
Yeah, that was insane. So
And we didn't
had-
have any help. We had my sister and your friend Sam,
That's
who
right.
came as free
They
labor.
came and helped us for free, thank goodness. Because if we'd paid them anything, we would have lost money from the whole thing. But we had those like 18-quart containers or whatever that you get for Christmas ornaments and stuff. We had, I think it was 28 of them
At
filled
least.
with paper and ink. It was insane. I thought I was going to die that weekend. My back was so sore. Anyway.
And we had a little price gun, and we like stickered everything.
Oh yeah.
Which little do we know, we wouldn't sell everything at the show, and we would have to peel all the stickers off afterwards.
Yeah, it was crazy. So we went to that show.
My sister got a little price gun happy.
She did. She was price gunning
Bless her
everything. But so that we did that show, and it was good. I would consider the show to be a success as far as shows go, but.
It was so hard.
We found out after that show that we're just not meant for shows. With the type of products we carried, with doing the website thing the way we needed to do it, it wasn't going to happen for us doing shows.
So we came home from the DC show. A couple weeks later, we started carrying Noodlers, and then things really started to take off. Noodlers just became a really big part of our brand. We kept growing. Still just the two of us.
Yep.
All the samples and swabs.
We were doing the samples. We had the swab shop.
Noodlers brought in like 100 new colors. That was a lot of work.
That was. Well, and we recently, before that, we had Diamond. We had Private Reserve. So we had been like swab crazy. We expanded our ink insanely back in that summer of 2009. And that's when we really started to realize like we were going to be the ink people. Like that was our mission.
That was our specialty.
We were going to get every ink we could possibly get our hands on. And
Noodlers was like the obvious thing for that.
So yeah, things started to pick up, and I had since kind of come to the realization
you hadn't been making pens in a while.
I hadn't been making pens in months at that point, and it really was just a matter of I have all these tools, I need to put them somewhere. And so I think what we did is we bought a shed.
We did.
And I took all the tools that used to be in this 500 square foot garage, and I crammed them into a 100 square foot shed.
Yeah.
That was just completely packed.
And a carport.
That's true.
You finished off the
right.
carport so you could put stuff in there.
And then we got the shed, and we freed up the whole garage, which then doubled our space again. So now we had gone from our dining room to our whole garage.
No, dining room to the guest room.
To the guest room, to half the garage, to the whole garage. But I'm saying the dining room to the garage in over about a year's period, year's time.
Not even.
Yeah, and that to us just felt completely insane. And we thought like, oh, this is crazy.
We still didn't have a paycheck, and I was still working. No, I wasn't working my day job. No, I quit it.
Yeah.
That's right. We had Joseph, and I ran out my maternity leave, and I couldn't go back.
That's right.
Our plan was for you to be a stay-at-home dad and grow the business, and I was going to be the breadwinner, and I thought I could do it. And then came time for my maternity leave to finish up, and I couldn't leave him. In hindsight, if I'd gone back to my job and if he were the stay-at-home dad trying to grow the business, there's no way he could have done it all.
Yeah, it wouldn't have happened. Goulet Pens would not exist as it does today if that situation played out like that.
It was a huge, huge leap of faith.
It really was. And it was also kind of like, it was a leap of faith, but at the same time, it wasn't like, oh, well, I guess if it works out, it's okay. It was like, no, this has to work. There is no other option. We're going to make this work.
Especially once I quit that job. And I was like, okay, yeah, we got to do something.
That's it. There's no fallback plan because I had no resume to speak of. I graduated college, did one internship for 6 weeks, and then I was power washing houses with my dad.
Part-time.
And making pens part-time with no paycheck.
Yeah.
That is not a strong resume coming 2 years out of school, right?
You had a degree.
I did. But, oh yeah, I'm going to go into I had a property management degree. I'm going to go into the real estate business in what? 2009. Yeah, real strong move there. Yeah, good call. So yeah, we basically had to make this work. So we'd been doing the thing. We had the website. We had the garage set up. We were like, okay, we're figuring things out.
We got the paper and ink machine down.
Yeah. And so we were, for a period of time there, I think I actually did a blog post that was, we're the Goulet Pen Company, gouletpens.com, but we didn't carry any pens. It was only paper and ink. And so I blogged. I was like, does this make sense? Like, should we change our name? I don't know what we should do.
The Goulet Ink and Paper Company?
I don't know what we were thinking, but I think because I had such a passion for the pen making, and then it wasn't able to work, and I was crushed in my spirit that I wasn't able to make that work, giving it everything I had, that I was like, I need a break from pens. Like, I can't deal with pens right now.
It was too hard. It broke your heart too much.
Yeah, really, because I really gave it everything. So we had the paper and ink thing, and that was cool. And I was focusing completely on that. Obviously I was dealing with pens because, paper and ink without pens kind of it's only like 2/3 of the equation there. So, but I wasn't making anything, and we weren't selling any pens, and that was it. I just needed a break from the whole pen scene.
And then Noodlers came out with their nib creeper.
Yes, and I remember our distributor actually sent us one pen,
Yellow.
one yellow pen, and this was the Nib Creeper, the original one with no flex. This was before the Noodler's Flex pens, which if you got into fountain pens in recent years, you don't remember anything before the Noodler's Flex pens, but there was no Noodler's Flex pens at this time. They were rumored, but the idea of a $14 Flex pen was unheard of back then. So we had this little Noodler's Nib Creeper stiff nib thing, and it was
$14 for a piston fill pen.
$14 for a piston fill.
That was pretty revolutionary too.
It was Mandarin yellow, which was not my flavor. But even still, even though I didn't like the color, I was able to see the potential with that pen. And it was like, maybe we should consider pens again. I think it was like, I was emotionally ready for it.
Yeah, Fountain Pen Network, kind of talking to people on Twitter and Facebook, like, what do you guys think? What's the buzz like for these things?
They weren't around yet. Like, nobody had them, really. It was, Noodlers had been dealing with ink for 10 years.
This was their first pen.
It was their first foray into pens. Nathan Tardif had developed this pen, but people were kind of skeptical about it, and it was like, do we really want to get involved in all this? I don't know. I mean, looking back on it now, it's like, well, duh. Obviously, Noodlers is
someone's
awesome.
got to take that risk. Someone's got to take that leap of faith.
Yeah, so we got the pen, and I was like, all right, $14 for this pen. I'd handle enough pens. I was into the hobby. I was an enthusiast myself. You had been, researching stuff right along with me, and it was we both were just kind of like, all right, I think we can do this. Yeah, so we got a couple pens, and we also got into the Platinum Preppy at the same time, I think. That pen had solid reputation, value, but I think that's how we started out, was like, we're only going to carry stuff that's a good value, a way for people to get into the hobby, because that's what had happened to us. We started out, and we got into the hobby from the ground level. We didn't know all this prestigious stuff. We didn't know all the brands. It was like, how can we ease into things
What's the cheapest thing we can get to try all these cool inks?
Yeah, and it was by necessity, really, because we didn't have any money. So we needed to get the best bang for the buck with our pens to get into the hobby, even as retailers.
Well, even as a retailer, we couldn't afford to stock, Pelican M1000s or anything like that. We just did not have the money. We weren't even paying ourselves.
Right. So we
dabbled.
eased into it. Yeah, and just like we did with the paper and ink starting out, we got into the pens, started selling them a little bit, and then
the Flex pens came out. That changed everything. Those were hot.
They were, and they weren't even that known at the time. There was just really
the concept of a Flex pen under $20.
Well, you kind of had
a modern Flex pen.
You kind of had to be like in the know, and it was really through Fountain Pen Network that the word kind of got out. A couple people had gotten pens and maybe blogged about it, but it really wasn't a widespread thing. It was just these few people that kind of knew what was up with these pens, and they were like emphatic about getting these pens. And I think the first couple of batches of these pens were
limited.
20 pens, 30 pens. It was
really
not many.
Wait 6 months, get another batch, sell out, wait another couple months.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was a big deal, these releases.
It really
and we would
was.
make a whole event out of it. Come to our site at this time and first come, first serve. We crashed our website a couple times. So then we hit into, we finished a year at that point. Things are really starting to pick up. We start, expanding a couple more pens here and there within the existing lines we had. And then that's when we landed Lamy and Pilot, is the beginning of 2011.
Yeah, and that was a big deal. That's when we really kind of felt like we were getting traction.
Because previously they didn't sell to online dealers because online retailers weren't really a big thing at the time.
Right.
But because we'd started to build a reputation, we had a good track record, I reached out to them and finally, they're like, okay, we'll sell some to you.
They're like, we'll make an exception and let you, and that's really what it was at the time.
Right. We normally only sell to brick and mortar stores, but, you seem to have a good site going on, so, we'll bring you on as a retailer. And that really changed things. I mean, Lamy and Pilot to this day are two of our biggest brands.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we love their products, and
that's when we hired our first employee.
That's right.
Around that time.
Well, we waited too long to hire our first employee.
Oh, we'd started Ink Drop at that point, too. Gosh, we were up till like 2, 3 in the morning some nights, and then waking up at, 6 or 7 when our son would wake up.
Yeah.
But doing ink samples. I remember, literally Friday nights, blasting the techno music to keep awake, doing ink samples in the garage. I'm like, we're, in our mid-20s. It's a Friday night. We're here doing ink samples in our garage. Is this normal? Do we have a life?
No, it's not normal. We know that. But that was what we had to do, and we loved it. We enjoyed doing all that. We had our own little business. Things were working, and it was really motivating.
Then it got to the point where this is so much work. It's and we were finally paying ourselves, and maybe it's time to get some help. Your parents helped us a little bit, and we're like, no, we need like real help. Like,
yeah, well, we didn't want to commit to bringing somebody on board full time and then not have enough work. Like, we took that very seriously, and we knew that it was going to change things when we brought somebody else on.
Right.
And we really kind of fought it for a while because we still had kind of this craftsman mentality, like, this is
Mom
our
and Pop.
work. This is our work, and we do it, and we are accountable for everything, and so on. And so we felt this responsibility to do everything. And so we really hung on too long, but it got to the point where we were working 18-hour days, 7 days a week, while taking care of our child. We had no social life to speak of whatsoever, and it was just work all the time.
Yeah.
We enjoyed it, but it was wearing on us. And we kind of came to the realization that if we keep this up, we're going to burn out.
Oh, we were already burning out.
Yeah. Even
So
after
we-
a few months of working at that pace.
So a year and a half in, we hired our first employee. 2 months later, another employee. And then it just started
And then
snowballing.
Once we kind of realized, like, once we kind of mentally crossed that bridge of, we're going to bring this essentially a stranger into our garage. And
Hey, want to come work in our garage?
yeah, literally that's what it was. Yeah, and so
And they did. We had 5 people in our garage at one point, in addition to the 2 of us.
yeah,
And then we started getting real tight on space, and we crammed as much inventory as we could. And then it got to the point where we're just like, oh, we need to move out of our house.
yeah.
That was so hard.
That was a big mental thing because, the pen making thing was one dream, but then working with our family business in our house with our kids, like that was
Second kid on the way.
That was really kind of the bigger overlying dream that we had, was to have this family business in the house. And that was really kind of the foundation for wanting to start this business in the first place, was to work and raise our kids in this business. So for us, it was like we had gone through so many changes
This
as
is
it
2
was.
years in.
Yeah, not even. So, yeah.
Almost 2 years
Yeah.
in.
So going through all these changes and stuff, having our child, and that was a big change, and then having our second, and that was a big change.
Well, we couldn't scale back. That was no longer an option at this point.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have known how to scale back. And then that'd be letting 4 people go out of work, and we couldn't do that either.
Yeah.
So
We kind of had to grow it. And so we came to the conclusion, like, this just can't be in our house anymore if we want to continue to run this business. It's got
Legally.
we got to get our own space. So once we did that, we started looking at commercial spaces, and then that's when the whole thing really started to feel like an actual business. It wasn't just this little thing that we were knocking around doing. This was legit, and we knew we would have to start operating in that manner.
we found a 3,000 square foot office warehouse combo about 10 minutes from our house. So we just bring the whole family to work. Because, what else are we going to do? We can't leave our kid at home. So we set up a little playroom in one of the offices.
Yep.
And we brought the whole family to work every day. And we
Yep.
had our 5 employees. And, it changed everything. And it was magical to have so much space. We went from the 500 square foot garage to 3,000 square feet. And
we looked around, we were like,
had bathrooms and a kitchen.
Yes, 2 bathrooms.
2 bathrooms.
And that's actually the space we're in right here as we're shooting this. This is the
original space
that we moved into coming out of our house, was right here. And that was just such a big deal for us, having this real business. We had a sign on the building and everything.
Yeah.
It wasn't a brick and mortar store, but it was just a warehouse office area.
But still, having our logo on the front of a building.
Yeah, that was
It's
crazy.
like, whoa, this is real.
Then I got the bill for the sign, and it was like, oh, shoot, that's right.
That's business.
Yeah, but it was crazy. So we continued.
And then I had our daughter.
Yeah.
Like
That was
two
not long
months
after.
after.
Yeah, that was kind of another big thing. It was like, we need to get some help.
Oh, yeah, I can't process all the credit cards myself anymore because I'm going to have a baby and have to be in the hospital.
Yeah.
So we decided to train up some of our warehouse people. Okay, here's how you do purchase orders. Here's how you charge credit cards.
Here's how you answer the phone and talk to customers.
Right.
That was kind of a big deal.
Here's how you learn fountain pens so that you can actually give information to the customers who call on the phone.
Yeah.
So within that 2 months, once we got into the space, it was a quick ramping up to train away our duties so that we could be free to have our daughter and actually take, a little bit of maternity leave. So after we'd been in our 3,000 square foot space for a while, an opportunity arose to move into a different building.
Different suite within the same
Different
building.
suite in the same building that was double the size. The tenants there wanted to downsize, so we're like, oh, can we just switch? Our landlord was totally cool with that.
Yeah, we were still growing, and we didn't need the space yet.
We
But at
knew-
the same time,
well,
we'd been on this growth track for so long.
We had a 3-year lease. We'd been in 6 months. We're like, yeah, by the end of 3 years, it might get tight in here.
Mm-hmm.
So we took advantage of the opportunity. We switched, and that was a lot of space.
Yeah, that really felt like a lot of space. And, basically, long story short, to summarize everything, we ended up expanding 2 more times beyond that.
Back into our original
to the point
space.
where we took this space back over.
We just kept moving adjacent and just busting out holes in the wall to connect the space. So now we have 3 different suites, 12,000 square feet of office and warehouse.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, but we didn't just get the space because we wanted the space. It's really because
It was
we kept
needed.
expanding. We've got 18 people here now,
Including us.
and so it's and plus our kids are here. They have their own space too. So it's really quite an operation that we've got going on here, and especially sitting down here and reminiscing about what the early days were like, and it really wasn't that long ago in the grand scheme of things. It was only about 2 years ago that we were in working out of our house.
In hindsight, I seriously don't know how we did it.
I don't know either. I'm summarizing this stuff, and I don't even believe it myself. It sounds like some kind of fairy tale, but really it was just laced with hard work and lucky breaks. But, really it all kind of just boils down to we are so incredibly thankful to be here, to be doing what we do. We have a whole team, a whole, army of people here that are so thankful. And I think I tend to get more of the credit because I'm more of the public face in the videos.
You're the face man.
I am the face man, but really this whole tale is a story of the two of us and how complementary our skills have been and our relationship has been all along throughout the growth of this business. And it continues to be today. I think if either one of us were to cut back or work less or do something different, it would change kind of the whole feel of how we do things, because really it's the two of us together that make this thing happen.
But it's because of the team we have that we've been able to do what we've done. I think long term, one thing that's really I've really enjoyed is getting to see people grow and develop their skills from starting out with someone, a recent college grad with absolutely no plan in life and not sure what they want to do, to then work with us for several years and be really doing some cool stuff and being challenged and contributing awesome things that customers get to benefit from. That's just so cool to see.
To have people that have had work experience at other companies and have absolutely hated it and been treated terribly, and then come here and been so enthusiastic because of how well they get treated here and how much they love this and how much they love interacting with the customers here and the passion that
and
is
falling in
within
love
this
with the
community.
products.
Yeah.
They all become users and addicts themselves.
Exactly. It's such a cool environment, and we continue to get complimented about that through pretty much everybody that comes in contact with us, is just how different this is. And when I sit down and think about it, it's like, yeah, you know what? Other companies I shop with, I really don't have the same experience that other people have here. So when I really think about it, this really is kind of a cool thing we have going on here. I mean, I know
think
that.
so.
And we work hard to make that happen, but even still, it's like that's kind of cool to really get that feedback every day. We're just floored. I mean, being able to do what we do every day, there is no greater feeling than knowing that the contributions you're making every day are not only valued with everybody that you work with, but with the customers and vendors and really just everybody that we come in contact with is delighted to be working with us, and we are delighted to be working with them. And I don't think that happens very often in the business world, especially these days, to see so many happy people working in an environment like this, to see so many customers that are delighted by the experience that they're having. It really is just incredibly validating to the way that we have tried to build this business.
You're the reason we're doing all of this. You challenge us to be better. You tell us when we're screwing up so we can fix ourselves and become better. You tell us
We don't want to hear it, but we know it helps us.
We need it. You tell us about opportunities that we're not pursuing, and then we can go after those. And it's because of you. You're the reason we even did the paper and the ink thing, because these were the things you wanted. And in the way, you want to see it, like the ink samples, the swabs, and then, leading to the nib nook and pencil, everything is because of a request that you've made.
True.
And I think the coolest part for us is getting to see what you do with all this stuff. So getting to see your creativity, getting to see your talent, just the potential that our products have in your hands and what you create. it's just the coolest thing for us, that two-way street, to get to see, what you're doing with it as well.
There's a lot of things that we do now that harken back to our original early days. One of the things is the handwritten notes that we do on every invoice. Rachel and I are not personally doing them all like we were back in the early days.
We have help now.
We have a whole team that helps us with that now. But, you could look at that and say, is that really worth the time to do that? There's so many orders to get out. There's so many customers that we've seen over the last 4 years.
It would be so easy to just stop doing it and just
It would.
increase
Other
our
companies
volume.
don't do that. Other companies a fraction of our size even won't do that kind of thing. Why do we still do that? But I think it's something that we're going to always keep doing, because it really helps to keep us kind of rooted in what the business was like in its earliest days. And it helps us to remember that it's not just an order, it's not just an invoice number or a dollar amount that we're shipping out. It would be so easy for us to detach ourselves from personality, from individuals, being in an online situation, having a staff of people who are looking at, order processing screens and pieces of paper. It would be easy to detach that from the human beings that make this business so incredibly vibrant and passionate and in touch with each other. But for us, I think that doing those written notes really helps us to think that this is an individual, this is a person, this is a passionate writer, someone who has entrusted us with getting them the products that will help to enhance their life and enhance their writing experience. And that, for that reason alone, we're going to continue to do that.
I will hire a team of people to write notes all day long if that's what we have to do.
We kind of already have.
Okay. I mean, they do other things too, but
Exactly. But that's something that it's not even a thought for us. We're going to continue to do that. And there's a lot of other things like that that are not as forward-facing and not as customer-facing, I guess, for you to see that we do here, that there's a reason for all these little weird things that we do here in our company that we'll continue to do and operate, because it gives us personality, and it helps to keep us rooted in what really matters, which is servicing our customers
as people.
And that really gets to the root of it all. Aside from the products, aside from the website and the tools that we've built, it's really all about helping people. And as long as we keep that at the center of what we do, I think we'll continue to grow and see the opportunities we've seen over the last 4 years.